I used to believe that love, when real, could survive anything. Maybe that's what blinded me. Or maybe I just didn't want to admit that the man I married had already stopped seeing me long before I ever noticed. My name's Maya. I'm 30 now, but this story started when I was 26. Back when life felt simple. I had a steady job, a husband I adored, and a little house in the suburbs of Austin that smelled like cinnamon coffee and fresh laundry. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were happy. Ryan and I met in college. He was the kind of guy who lit up every room without even trying. That confident smile, that easy laugh. I was quieter, more grounded. He said I made him feel anchored. I liked that word. After graduation, we both jumped straight into adulthood, careers, bills, responsibilities. He became a software engineer for a local startup, and I climbed my way into a management role at a tech firm downtown. Life was comfortable, predictable, maybe too predictable. I was the planner in the relationship. Vacations, finances, birthdays, even our grocery lists. Ryan was spontaneous, creative, and impulsive, which used to charm me until it started feeling like carelessness. He'd forget to pay bills, show up late for dinner, or cancel plans last minute because something came up. But it wasn't until our 5th anniversary that I started to feel something shift. We were having dinner at our favorite rooftop restaurant, the same one where he proposed. The sun was setting, painting everything gold. I'd spent days planning the evening. He showed up late, distracted, and glued to his phone. When I asked who he was texting, he said it was a coworker. Urgent stuff. Then he looked up and smiled like everything was fine. But that smile didn't reach his eyes anymore. The man sitting across from me that night wasn't my husband. He was a stranger wearing his face. Still, I brushed it off. Everyone gets busy, right? People drift sometimes. I told myself it was just stress, work pressure. No. But little things started piling up. The way he suddenly took more care with his appearance. The faint whiff of perfume that wasn't mine. The late-night showers. And how he'd laugh quietly at his phone, typing fast, then flip the screen over when I walked in. I wanted to ask. God, I wanted to scream. But instead, I convinced myself that I was overreacting. Because admitting the truth would mean accepting that the life I'd built, the man I loved, might already be gone. It's funny how silence can scream louder than words. That's what our house became. A place full of quiet noises. The hum of the refrigerator. The creak of the ceiling fan. The soft buzz of Ryan's phone lighting up on the kitchen counter. All of them whispering things I didn't want to hear. I started keeping track of the small things. The lies that hid between the lines. The "I'm grabbing a drink with Mark from work" that turned into "my phone died." The "you didn't have to wait up" that somehow sounded like I didn't want you to. Every night, I lay in bed listening to the sound of the garage door closing later and later. The sheets grew colder on his side. I'd trace the wrinkles where he should have been, pretending he'd just gone to the bathroom, pretending he was still mine. One evening, he came home smelling like rain and something floral, something I couldn't name. He kissed my forehead and said, "You worry too much." That was his favorite line lately. Like my heart was a faulty alarm going off for no reason. I started doubting myself. That's the worst part, the gaslighting. You start believing maybe you are the problem. Maybe you're paranoid. Maybe you're just insecure. You start apologizing for being right. He told me I was too intense, that I overanalyzed everything. So I stopped asking questions. I stopped checking his phone, stopped mentioning the way he smiled at his messages, stopped bringing up the perfume smell. I stopped because every time I did, he'd look at me like I was crazy. And then came the weekend. He said he had to go on a short work trip to Houston. It was last minute, some client emergency. I believed him, or maybe I wanted to. He packed his laptop, his blue shirt, the one I bought him for our anniversary, and a half smile that didn't quite reach me. Saturday night I tried to distract myself. Ordered takeout, put on a movie. Halfway through I realized I'd paused the screen and was just staring into space. My heart felt heavy. I opened Instagram, not to spy, just to scroll. But there it was. My best friend's story. Wine glass. Restaurant. A city skyline that looked a lot like Houston. And then, for half a second, a reflection in the window behind her. A man with Ryan's exact shirt. Froze. Replayed it 3 times. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone. I didn't message her. I didn't call him. I just sat there in the half-dark, realizing that maybe the story of us had ended long ago. I'd just been living in the reruns. When he came back Sunday night, I met him at the door with a smile so fake it hurt. He kissed my cheek, called me babe, and said the trip went great. I noticed a faint lipstick mark on his collar. Not red, but coral pink, the same shade my best friend wore. My throat went dry. That night, as he showered, I sat at our kitchen table with my laptop open, staring at our wedding photo as my cursor hovered over the email icon. I wanted to type something, anything. But what do you even say when the person you built your world around becomes the earthquake that destroys it? Instead, I closed it. Because if I was right, if he was really doing this, I wouldn't confront him with tears. No, I'd confront him with silence. And proof. That was the night I decided I'd find out the truth, no matter how ugly it was. And once I did, he'd never see it coming. There's a strange numbness that comes right before heartbreak. It's not pain, not yet. It's this stillness, like the world is holding its breath, waiting for you to realize what's already happened. That's what it felt like those next few weeks. After the Houston trip, I told myself I was imagining things. Forced normalcy. Cooked dinner. Laughed at his jokes. Kissed him goodbye in the mornings. But the laughter felt hollow, like a sound effect in a movie I no longer believed in. The truth was, I'd already started watching him. Quietly, methodically. He wasn't careful anymore. That's the thing about people who lie. They start believing in their own story. He'd leave his phone charging in the kitchen sometimes, unlocked. At first, I told myself I wouldn't check. But one night, curiosity felt heavier than guilt. He was in the shower. The sound of water running covered my heartbeat. I opened his messages. Hands trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. There she was. My best friend Lauren. The chat wasn't new. It went back months. Hundreds of messages. Inside jokes. Compliments. Then photos. Her in a hotel mirror. Him replying with fire emojis. Then one message that made my vision blur. Ryan. Wish you were here instead of her. I don't remember breathing after that. I just stared at it. That one sentence that erased 6 years of my life in 8 words. The water shut off. I nearly dropped the phone but managed to lock it and place it back before he came out. He walked into the room, towel around his waist, humming some tune like nothing had happened. He kissed my shoulder, said, "You okay?" And I smiled. Because if I didn't, I would have screamed. That night I didn't sleep. I lay awake next to him, his breathing deep and steady, while my mind replayed every lie he'd ever told me. Every "you're overthinking." Every "you're the only one." And I realized something I hadn't before. He didn't just betray me. He made me doubt my own sanity. That kind of damage doesn't heal with an apology. Need something else. Closure, control, revenge. I didn't know which one I wanted yet. The next morning, while he was in the shower again, I opened his laptop. He never changed his passwords. I guess he thought I trusted him too much to look. His email was full of receipts, hotel bookings, dinner reservations, Uber rides, all matching the nights he'd said he was working late. There was even one from Valentine's Day. He'd told me he was sick that night. I remember making him soup while he was resting. Turns out he'd been at a boutique hotel downtown. I scrolled further, my stomach tightening. There was a shared drive folder, labeled Work Trip Docs. Inside it wasn't spreadsheets. It was photos. Lauren and Ryan, holding hands, laughing, kissing. I think I sat there for 10 minutes before I realized tears were falling onto the keyboard. It wasn't the cheating that broke me, it was her. The woman who had stood beside me on my wedding day. Who knew every fight, every reconciliation, every fear I'd ever confessed over wine nights. She didn't just take my husband, she weaponized my trust. That's when something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Just focus. Like my brain flipped a switch and started moving on autopilot. I began copying everything, emails, photos, chat screenshots, into a hidden folder on my personal drive. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof. For a week I gathered more. I smiled through dinners. I packed his lunches. I let him kiss me goodnight. And every time he did, I imagined the moment I'd finally watch his face crumble when he realized I knew everything. But something interesting happened that week. The more proof I gathered, the less I wanted to confront him with it. Not yet. Confrontation would give him power. The power to lie, cry, manipulate, twist it around. No, I didn't want a scene. I wanted precision. I wanted to dismantle his world the way he dismantled mine. Piece by piece, without warning. So I waited. I started moving my personal things out of the house, one item at a time. Favorite sweater. My grandmother's locket. Documents. Photos. Little by little I made myself invisible. He didn't notice. He was too busy texting her. Then one Thursday night, I overheard him in the living room. His voice low but laughing. He said, "She's clueless. I think she actually believes me." Then silence. Then, "Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow night. Same place." My heart stopped. Tomorrow night. Same place. I didn't even need to ask where. The next evening I followed him. I waited until he left, then got in my car and stayed 3 cars behind. He drove downtown to that same boutique hotel from Valentine's Day. Checked in. Alone. 15 minutes later, she arrived. Lauren. Seeing them together made something inside me go very, very quiet. It wasn't rage. It wasn't sorrow. It was cold clarity. I parked nearby, walked into the hotel lobby, and asked the front desk casually if I could drop off a surprise gift for a guest. Ryan's name. The receptionist smiled. Sure thing. I handed over an envelope. Inside it was a single photo of our wedding day. I'd circled Lauren in red ink and written, "Some memories don't age well." Then I left. I didn't stick around to see what happened. I didn't need to. I already knew that from this moment on, everything he touched would start to fall apart. When I got home that night, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop. All the evidence I'd gathered. I sent it to her fiancé. Then I sent another copy to his company's HR inbox, anonymously. They had a strict no fraternization policy. By morning, both their lives would start crumbling. And me. I just sat in the quiet, staring out the window, realizing I finally had something I hadn't felt in months. Control. Revenge doesn't happen in one grand gesture. It happens in silence, in planning, in patience. It's not about screaming, "I got you." It's about watching them realize on their own that their world is collapsing, and that you were the one holding the match all along. That morning after the hotel incident, I didn't confront him. He came home late, smelling like guilt and aftershave. His shirt was buttoned wrong. His eyes avoided mine. He said, "Long night." Hurry. Client dinner went over. I smiled, poured him coffee and said, "That's okay. You work so hard." He actually relaxed. That's when I knew. He thought he'd won. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was done being the wife who cried in silence. Now I was the storm he didn't see coming. I started with money. Ryan had always been proud of our teamwork. Most of our accounts were joint, but I managed the bills. He never paid attention to details. That was my department. So I started moving things quietly. Over a few weeks, I rerouted automatic payments, opened a new checking account under my maiden name, transferred half our savings, my legal half. I even created a second Venmo account in his name, with a period added, and used it to send myself small test payments labeled consulting fee. Looked like spam. He never noticed. By the time I was done, I had enough to start over twice. Next, I cleaned the house, not physically, emotionally. I boxed up our wedding photos, his love letters, the dried roses I'd stupidly kept from our first date. All of it went into a storage unit under my name. Then I began packing my essentials, clothes, toiletries, personal documents, and stored them in my trunk. He didn't notice. He was too busy sneaking phone calls in the garage. One night, he mentioned he had to go on another conference trip. I said, "Of course. You should go. You deserve a break." I even helped him pack. I ironed his shirts, folded his favorite sweater, slipped a small note inside his luggage pocket. It said, "Enjoy your trip. It's your last one with my trust." He left Friday morning. That evening, I executed everything. I contacted our landlord, the lease was under both names, and told her I'd be vacating. I paid the penalty fee up front. I cancelled all utilities under my name. Then I called the movers I'd pre-booked under an alias. By sunset, the house was empty, except for one thing. On the dining table I left an envelope. Inside were printed copies of the hotel receipts, the messages, and a letter written in my calmest handwriting. It said, "I didn't yell because you don't deserve my anger. I didn't cry because you're not worth my tears. But I do hope, one day, when you sit in silence and realize you destroyed the one person who truly believed in you, that it echoes." By midnight, I was checked into a small Airbnb across town. I turned off my phone and slept for the first time in weeks. When I woke up, my notifications were exploding. Missed calls, messages, voicemails. The first one from Ryan. "Maya, where are you? What the hell is all this? Please call me." The next, "Okay, I get it, you're mad, but we can fix this. Just talk to me." Then another tone shift. "If you ruin my career over this, I swear." And that's when I smiled. 'Cause I already had. See, the company where he worked had a strict HR policy. No relationships between team members. Lauren wasn't just a random fling. She was a project manager in his department. Remember that anonymous email I sent to HR? Turns out they took it seriously. By Monday, both were under investigation. By Wednesday, he was let go for policy violation. Lauren's engagement was called off the same day. Her fiancé had forwarded the screenshots I sent. And me. I didn't post, I didn't gossip, I didn't celebrate. I just watched. Quietly. 2 weeks later, Ryan showed up at my new apartment. He looked wrecked, unshaven, dark circles, desperate. He said, "You didn't have to destroy everything." I said, "You destroyed it. I just showed you the ashes." He tried to cry. I didn't flinch. He said he made a mistake, that she meant nothing, that I was his world. The kind of apology that would have melted me a year ago. Now it sounded like noise. Before he left, he said something that stuck with me. "You won't find anyone who loves you like I did." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "Exactly. That's the point." After he left, I walked around my new place. Half empty, quiet, peaceful. The walls didn't hum with lies anymore. I poured myself a drink and thought about everything. The nights I doubted my worth, the mornings I felt invisible, the way I begged the universe for answers while he was with someone else. And I realized something. Revenge didn't heal me. It didn't fix the heartbreak or erase the memories. But it gave me back something he'd taken, myself. He taught me that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes silence is power, the kind that burns slowly, cleanly, completely. So no, I didn't forgive him. I didn't need to. Because by the time he realized what he'd lost, I was already someone he could never touch again. I remember the night I truly left him. Not physically, that had happened weeks before. No, I mean the night I left him in my heart. It was late, maybe 2 a.m. The world outside was silent, the kind of stillness that almost hums. I was lying in my new apartment, a modest place with pale blue walls and a kitchen that still smelled like the previous tenant's coffee. The air conditioner rattled every few minutes, and the street light outside blinked through the blinds in soft pulses. I should have been asleep, but my mind kept circling back to the man who once promised me forever. He'd called again that night, 10 missed calls. His texts had turned from pleading to angry to desperate. He said he couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, that he just wanted to talk. That word again. As if all the years of betrayal could be undone with a few well-chosen sentences. But I didn't answer. For the first time I didn't need to. Because revenge, real revenge, isn't just about making someone pay. It's about reclaiming the peace they took from you. And peace, I realized, is silent. The next morning I went to work early. I was the first one in the office, sipping my coffee as the sunrise painted the city gold. My reflection in the glass caught my attention. Not the tired, broken version of me from months ago, but someone new, someone lighter. People talk about closure like it's a door you slam shut. But it's not. It's a slow fade, a quiet acceptance that the person you loved never really existed in the way you thought they did. Ryan had been an illusion, a collection of my hopes dressed up in human form. And when I finally stopped trying to fix him, I started fixing me. 2 months later, his revenge began to crumble. The woman he'd cheated with. She posted online about how he lied to her too. Screenshots, receipts, the whole digital graveyard. It spread fast. And in his tight little tech circle, that was social suicide. He was forced to resign from his job. Word got out about his ethics issue, and no one wanted to hire him again. He tried to play the victim, of course. He told friends I'd set him up. But people aren't stupid. The truth has a way of leaking through even the tightest seals. A few mutuals reached out to me. Some apologized for not believing me before. Others just said, "You were right." But I didn't feel victorious. Not really. It's strange. I thought I'd feel satisfaction watching him lose everything. But instead I felt tired. Like someone who finally made it to the top of a hill only to realize the view isn't what they expected. Revenge gives you control, yes. But it doesn't always give you peace. That part you have to build yourself. So I started rebuilding, slowly, deliberately. I went back to therapy. I took up painting again. Something I hadn't done since college. I reconnected with my sister. I stopped drinking wine every night just to sleep. I even adopted a dog, a rescue named Harper, who had trust issues just like me. Every morning we walked the same trail near Ladybird Lake. I'd watch the lights spill across the water, smell the coffee from a cafe nearby, and remind myself that healing doesn't have a finish line. Some days were better than others. Some days I missed the person I thought Ryan was. And on a few rare days, I even missed who I was when I still believed in him. But that version of me, the girl who kept trying to earn love that should have been freely given, she deserved to rest. Months passed. Then one morning I got an email from Ryan. It was long, apologetic, the kind of message that takes a person all night to write. He admitted everything, the affair, the lies, even the manipulations after I left. He said he'd hit rock bottom, that he'd started therapy too, and that he finally understood what he'd done. He ended with, "I'll never stop regretting how I treated you." For a few minutes I stared at that line. I thought about replying, maybe something polite, maybe even kind. But then I closed the laptop. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. A year later, I ran into him by accident. I was at a small art exhibit, one of mine actually, and he walked in with someone I didn't recognize. He looked smaller somehow, like the arrogance had been washed out of him. His eyes found mine, and for a brief second, there was that flicker of recognition. He gave a small nod. I nodded back. And that was it. No confrontation. No words. Just two people who once destroyed each other, standing in the same room, breathing the same air, finally. Done. I sold a painting that night. One called After the Storm. A swirl of blues and golds. Soft brushstrokes over textured canvas. It was abstract, but to me it captured everything. The chaos, the grief, the healing. And when the buyer asked what it meant, I smiled and said, "It's about learning to love silence again." Now, sometimes I'll still see his name pop up somewhere. An old LinkedIn suggestion, a tagged photo from years back. And I'll feel nothing. Not anger. Not longing. Just calm. Because I realized something. The best revenge isn't making them hurt. It's showing them you don't need them to feel whole anymore. And when I finally reached that place, that quiet, steady peace, I knew the war was over. Not because I won, but because I walked away. Sometimes, revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. When you finally stop chasing closure from the person who broke you, that's when you start healing. If this story hit close to home, take a moment to breathe. And remember, peace isn't found in payback. It's found in letting go. Thank you for watching. If you felt something from this story, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more true life confessions that cut deep. Until next time, take care of your heart.